It's the 1990, and I'm just, I really declared myself a photographer in late '89, and just did my first gigs in the fall of '89, and then I got into doing stuff on movie sets in early 1990. And there was an independent film being made in Los Angeles called The Linguini Incident. It was being directed by a guy, an NYU film graduate named Richard Shepard, and it was like the budget was like $1 million, but it had a really great cast. It was Rosanna Arquette, Marlee Matlin was in it, David Bowie, Buck Henry and Andre Gregory were also in it, and they somehow Premiere Magazine, which is a big film magazine, that hired me to go on to the set to do a group photo of the cast. And I went there one day, and David Bowie was in, and I wasn't the photographer on the film. Oh God, I can't think of his name right now, I'm blanking. But there was a great photographer who was the set photographer on the movie, and they were filming in LA, and they were going to, like for the final 5 or 6 days, they were going to go to New York to film, and but they didn't have the budget to bring the unit photographer with them. So I kind of said to them, well, look, I'll go and do the photography for you if you. I wanted to see my family. If you give me a plane ticket back to New York, I'll do the photos. And they said, okay, great. So we went back to New York, and they were doing a scene on Coney Island, and it was like a blustery December morning, December of 1970, and we were out of Coney Island, and there had been David Bowie and Rosanna Arquette were kind of love interests in the movie, and we were at this great gray December morning, and I saw this, the Coney Island skyline, and we were standing on the beach, and I said, I said to one of the producers, I said, it would be really cool if I could get David Bowie and Rosanna Arquette to be kind of holding hands, running in the sand toward the camera with the Coney Island skyline behind them, and they were like, oh no, don't bother him, don't bother, we don't want to. So I asked him, I said, would you mind? He said, no, great idea. He couldn't have been more professional and more kind. I just asked him, and they did the take for me like 3 or 4 times, and then he was standing there, Bowie was standing there, he was a chain smoker, and he was smoking cigarettes, and like in between cigarettes, I did this great portrait of him, which has become very well known, of him kind of with the gray December morning and the wind blowing through his hair. And just to give you an idea, it was such a legend, but he was just couldn't have been more down to earth. So a few months later, I was back in Los Angeles, and I was having sushi at I forget the name of it, some sushi restaurant in La Cienega, Matsuhisu or something like that. A very fancy place with my girlfriend, and it was a crowded Friday night, and David Bowie and Iman walked in, and like across the room he saw me, and he brought Iman over, and they spent like 10 minutes at the table just talking. And so that was the memory I have of David Bowie. And then a couple of times, like years later, I knew this girl who was a photographer, and she worked with a lot of disabled people for Easter seals. And she asked me if I would donate the photo of David Bowie, and I did, and to some benefit that she was doing. And we sent it to David Bowie, and he signed it, and I signed it, and I think it sold for like $5,000 for the benefit. So that was nice. And then one more follow-up is after Bowie had passed away, I had an exhibit of my photographs at this gallery in Little Havana on Cayocho, at this place called Futurama. And there were some people that were like from London, they were across the street, and they saw through the window of the gallery my photo, and the wife bought it for her husband for his birthday, so I had it sent to London. So anyway, that's the David Bowie.